I think I've invented the process by which you can make any digital photo look like film. And it's not like standard digital processing which everyone uses to make vintage photos. And you can experiment with this idea a lot. So, the most important thing that we will need is a phosphor plate. It's just a child's drawing plate with an ultraviolet pen. And you can draw something like this. I just bought it in the supermarket in the toy section. Its most important advantage is that it can always be used, since the light from it eventually disappears and it's ready for repeated use. And it allows you to transfer any image onto it to get character-like film. So you need Photoshop or something like this. And the printer. I use a black and white laser printer because it seems to me that it's best suited for this. But there is one problem and an interesting solution. Transparent paper for a printer is not cheap, and it will take a lot for my experiments. So I experimented with plain paper and realized something. But first, let's just look at the original and the results. I really like the fact that the process gives a coarse grain as well as a noticeable loss in bright lights. At the same time, I've been experimenting with this for a long time to achieve a reasonable sharpness. And before printing, do not forget to convert the image to black and white and sharpen it, because the plate produces a fairly soft image and it needs to be saturated with sharp details to the maximum. And when you're done, you can start printing. You can also invent the image if you want. I usually do this with bright images because the paper itself has a very noticeable structure, but it will be less visible on the plate if you invent the photo, since the light parts will be printed on the paper as black, and the paper structure is not visible through the ink. And I also recommend that you stock up on any paper baking right away. And so, regarding experiments with ordinary paper, I realized that to increase its transparency, you can use ordinary olive oil, which gives a really great results and does not blur the image itself. And it really looks transparent and retains details, although the structure of paper is visible, but in this case it cannot be removed. In addition, if you compare it with paper without impregnation, it really looks good. Also, do not forget about napkins, you will need a lot of them to keep everything clean. So, after the printing itself, you just pour a little oil on the paper and smear it on the surface. Do it as you like. The main thing is not to dirty everything and do not leave any not soaked parts on the paper. After that, leave the paper for a while, so that it absorbs everything. You can also remove excess oil with a napkin. So, after the paper is dry, let's start preparing the plate. This process is similar to regular contact printing on photo paper. You just hold the photo with the printed side facing the plate. After that, you will need to expel all the air from under the photo. And of course, it's napkin time. And now we'll need the glass from the frame, but you can print without it. However, there's maybe small air bubbles on the print from the photographic plate. I also use clothespins to make everything fit snugly. Most importantly, make sure that nothing slips or slides off. After that, arrange it as you like. and you can expose it whatever you want, even with the light from the sun, even the light from the lamp. The plate is sensitive enough for direct light sources. I will use a bright flash that connects to the power supply and is activated from a button of the case. So my setup looks something like this. Also, if you do not want to light up the plate, so as not to wait long for it be ready again, you can use red light. Yes, this plate is also like photo paper, is not susceptible to red. And anyway, I'm starting to expose. The phosphor plate has no exposure limit, accumulates light as much as it can and emits it, not like ordinary film or paper. It can't overlight, but it can't get oversaturated, which will cause loss of details and blurring. I recommended exposing until the image is fixed on the plate. So, after expose, I need to digitize the image from the plate until it stops glowing. And for this, I use homemade wooden box, which I also sometimes use as camera for the plate. I just insert a DSLR and focus it using a test paper in frame. Most importantly, don't forget that a lot of what I've done needs to be done in the dark. And so, after exposure, I just take the photo and glass off the plate. And I quickly wipe it from the oil residue. The oil is not terrible for it. I recommend using plastic plates for such cases. You may notice a lot of phosphor plates on the paper substrate in the supermarkets, but they have a much more granular structure and lose brightness faster, and I'm also sure that the oil will spoil the paper base. And so after the exposure, I take out the plate and you can see the image on it. I just insert it into a wooden box. And I close the box from the outside light. And you can start shooting with DSLR. This is probably the one possible way to digitize this plate efficiently. I use a long shutter speed and a low ISO. After the camera has done, you will get excellent digitalization. Most importantly, do not forget to check if the focus is lost. The results directly depend on digitalization. After that, apply the standard processing, crop the frame, correct the curvature of the lens. Also, turn it back to black and white, because I don't think the green photos looks nice. Also, if you made a negative out of photo, don't forget to turn it back to positive. The plate itself gives a positive image, so you can print a positive on it. In general, if you actually take up this case, I think you already know how to use photo editors. And anyway, it's all about printing on this plate. This case has its own interesting process, which is close to the real contact photo printing. And it doesn't require any cost at all, except for the plate, which is inexpensive, and a DSLR camera. But I think if you're watching this video, you already have a camera. I even scanned the plate from my phone camera, as I can tell you in following videos. The picture turns out to be insanely vintage and at the same time real, since I used non-digital methods of transferring photos to another medium. Thanks for watching. It's Phosphochrome. Bye.